Welcome to the talk show Promising Bangladesh, sponsored by Crown Cement. Viewers, today you know very well that we are passing 52 years of our Victory Day, and today is 16 December. And we are at this very moment having two giant figures from the defense forces of Bangladesh. One is former Chief of Army Staff of Bangladesh Army, Lieutenant General Retired Harun-Ar-Rashid. How are you?
Thank you very much. By the grace of Almighty, I am still fine.
Other being A.G. Mahmud, former Chief of Air Force of Bangladesh. Mr. A.G. Mahmud, how are you?
Thank you. Very well.
Well, Mr. Harun-Ar-Rashid, we will discuss about the War of Liberation. Then you are a freedom fighter. Please explain your experience, what you gathered during the War of Liberation.
9 months is a pretty long time. And if you have to brief it in 5 minutes, I think it is one of the hardest time. Anyway, first of all, on a Victory Day, I would like to convey my countrymen the best wishes on the Victory Day. At the same time, we would like to recall the sacrifices made by all the freedom fighters who laid down their lives for the liberation of the country. Above all, the people who led us to the victory, the government of Bangladesh, 4 leaders, and not the last is the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Experience of war, that is particularly Bangladesh War of Liberation 1971, is a very, very typical one. First of all, many wars have been fought in the history, including recent ones. But the Bangladesh War of Liberation is a unique one with no example to match. Why? First of all, armed forces are always there to protect the government. Armed forces are always there to fight for the government. But in case of Bangladesh armed forces, that was at that time East Pakistan, we had East Bengal Regiment, 7 battalions. We had East Pakistan Rifle. We had Mujahids. We had Pakistan Air Force located in Bangladesh Eastern Wing. Pakistan Navy located in Bangladesh. All of them, I am saying without any exception, all of them answered the call of the father of the nation that we have to fight to get the occupation army out of this land. And true to the call, every individual joined the armed forces, defying the Pakistan armed forces, for whom we took oath that we will protect the president and the constitution of Islamic Republic of Pakistan. So we broke that promise and we joined the Bangladesh War of Liberation. Subsequently, this War of Liberation became a people's war. People's war in a sense, at that time our total population was 750 million, out of which, if you take a liberal calculation, Razakar, Al-Badr, Al-Shams, Peace Committee, all together will not exceed 200,000. Other than this, everyone, old, young, peasant, worker, professionals, you name anything, daughters, mothers, fathers, everyone wanted to contribute to the war effort. Why I say this? We, the freedom fighters, when we used to roam around in the villages, we did not have any logistical backup to come from the camp. So it was the villagers who provided us food, shelter, security, and also guide us to the target area where we want to go. Primary role was played by the ladies in making us our stay comfortable, food, whatever they had, the best of their ability. So, experience, I said, Bengalis for the first time in the history was united for a common purpose of liberating the land. My instructor, Marshal Mahmud, definitely will explain what was their position when they were out of the country, because he was located in another part of the world. So, Bengalis, those who are not inside the East Pakistan at that time, located outside, they are urged to join the war. We have seen Flight Lieutenant Moti Rahman, how he tried his best, leaving behind his family to join the war. Next one was, people used to say the Bengalis cannot fight. You are not a martial race. Particularly Pakistanis used to tell us, isn't it, sir, that you Bengalis, you cannot fight. Probably Pakistanis got the best of the lessons in the history of Pakistan, that it is the Bengalis who defeated them. It is such an honor for Bengali that 90,000 trained soldiers surrendered in Bangladesh to the Joint Forces Command of India and Bangladesh. Even in Second World War, such a huge number of surrender did not take place. People talks about the Singapore surrender, but Singapore surrender was not 90,000. Last not the least, the sacrifices made by the Bengalis, 3 million people, 500,000 women were violated, about 10 million homes were destroyed, another about 30 million people became refugees within the country. They could not leave their own house, and 10 million people had to go across to India. I have read some history, though I am not a student of history, but my interest about the history, I could not find even a single example, including Vietnam, that people have made such sacrifices for achieving the independence of the
Thank you very much. Dr. Harun, I will come to you again. Air Vice Marshal A.G. Mahmud, it is in history that during that time you were in West Pakistan, then West Pakistan. What were your sufferings during that time? Because basically you are product of Bangladesh, then East Pakistan.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. It's very difficult to explain the feeling. We were free, yet we are in captive, because we are free to do our job, but every step they suspected us. And they knew that every Bengali is a Bengali and no more a Pakistani. And in some cases they used to make us feel also. So a normal life was definitely disrupted. Normal relationship was not there. As much as we suspected them, they suspected us, like enemies, and yet the mask as if nothing is happening. One thing I particularly noticed, that as their suffering became, or their stay here became more difficult, the people who were there, they used to take revenge by taking, sort of a humiliating us, using language, as if, I am also part of that. But actually, all Bengalis were part of that liberation war, which General has said just now. In the heart of the heart, they were all with them. Physically, for various reasons, they could not physically take part, but in the heart of the heart, they always prayed for them and did everything possible. And it's not that we were left free. Some of us were taken custody for interrogation, for suspicion, and came out bruised, and some were kept in the cells also. The only connection that we had is the BBC, and that also very carefully, at a very low, we had to listen to know what is happening in our own country, in Bangladesh. Some of us were working behind the lines and taking care of, like I was an instructor, I was director of training also, and I had a lot of Bengalis who were cadets under trainees. So I used to take extra pain to see that no harm is done to them, and I also worked hard to repatriate some of the bright young pilots grounded then and safely back to Bangladesh. So all these difficult times, one thing that I was worried about was when Dhaka falls, because my parents were here, and I knew if there's an urban warfare, then there will be a lot of losses. And the day the surrender came, I thanked Allah that at least Dhaka people are safe from the conflict that was going on.
General Harun, we know that you have been awarded with the title, that's a military title, that is Bir Protik. And there are other three titles, Bir Shrestha, Bir Protik, Bir Bikram, and Bir Uttam. How do you feel? What are the feelings?
Across the world, across the history, the bravery has been recognized by every nation. Because if you do not recognize the bravery of today's generation, you will not get the brave soldiers of the next generation. Invasion was not an exception. Though it was very late, decided somewhere in August, the then government of Bangladesh decided to recognize some of the extraordinary bravery of Bengali soldiers for defeating the Pakistani forces or destroying the Pakistani forces. Well, category will vary because everybody's sacrifice is not at the same level. Somebody's sacrifice is at the highest level. So, in our case, it was divided into 4 groups: Bir Shrestha, Bir Uttam, Bir Bikram, and Bir Protik. I know I am one of those who have received this gallantry award, though the last one. But I had a feeling that we have not done justice to many deserving candidates. So far my knowledge goes, during the war, our liberation war strength was around 120,000. So out of 120,000, even 1,000 did not qualify. It's very hard to believe. Very hard to believe. But anyway, at that time, government gave one installment, 767, but subsequent governments did not take up this matter, that to award few more, though people are giving them Ekushi Padak, Sadhinata Padak. But these are, as we call it, the civil awards. It's not for the bravery. It's not for the what they call contribution in the war. So I still feel it should be late than never that some more people from the war of liberation should be given recognition for their extraordinary courage, valor. And more so, I would like to make a fervent request. I have been doing it for last 40 years, that liberation war has many, many successes, unbelievable, but those has not been recorded. Our future generations would not know how brave our ancestors, what they did, how they did. Indian Army started its operation somewhere late November. After the month of November, it was pure Bengalis who fought the Pakistani war.
Well, thank you very much. I will come to you again. We will go for a short break. Viewers, we are going for a short break and come to you very soon. Please keep watching. Viewers, we are back again to the talk show Promising Bangladesh, sponsored by Crown Cement. We are having talks with two brilliant officers of Bangladesh Air Force and Bangladesh Army. And both of them gathered tremendous experience in life. And they are like a star in the life of the defense forces of Bangladesh. Well, Mr. A.G. Mahmud, you have a brilliant chapter in your life, especially in 1977, there was a Japanese Red Army hijacked Japanese flight 472, and you were, as Chief of Air Force, handled the matter, negotiated the matter, and successfully all the captives were released. How did you did all these things? And you have been awarded after a long gap of 37 years. Why all these things take place? Please shortly analyze these things. Explain.
Flight number Japan Airlines 472 in DC-8 aircraft, which started its flight from Amsterdam, was going to Bangkok. On the way, its last landing before it landed at Dhaka was in Bombay. While I was on 28th of September 1977, while in the cabinet meeting, I was a minister also at that time, and Deputy Chief Marshal Administrator, while General Zia was the Chief Marshal Administrator and President. I was informed by my ADC that there is an aircraft flying overhead, seeking permission to land, and the aircraft has been hijacked by the Japanese Red Army. So naturally I informed the President, who was sitting next to me, and he was also, I do not know his reaction, but he only said to me that go and see what you can do about it. So the responsibility came on me. I went to the airport and I found the aircraft still up in the air, circling. My first reaction was not to get involved, because our country was new. It was 76 and only 72 that we got our independence. 4 years is very little time. So I told them that whatever their objective be, our facilities here would not be adequate to achieve their objective, and so it is better that they go to a place other than Dhaka, but they refused and they insisted on landing in Dhaka. And as a pilot myself, with so many passengers already in the air, I could not block the runway, because that would be very disastrous for the passengers and the aircraft itself, and I cannot put the aircraft safety in jeopardy. So I allowed them to land. And so the episode started from then onward. It's a long story. It lasted for 105 hours, 5 days, and ultimately they were, most of them were released here. The demand were fulfilled, and they left. First went to Beirut and then to Tripoli, where we had arranged that flight, and we went and the passengers were safe. Ultimately, all the hijackers were apprehended in due course of time, which I was told later on, and so the story ended. I understood what happens to a pilot when he is hijacked. So my first sympathy went for the air crew who was sitting, and the next sympathy for the passengers, which are about 146 of them or 156 of them. and for ourselves also. I was very concerned that if for some reason we do not resolve this issue of that demand peacefully, then we may have serious problem internally. Our government was at that time, in my judgment, was not little bit shaky, maybe enough shaky, because it was a martial law after the death of Bangabandhu. So naturally it was. So I defined my objective that a peaceful negotiation and a peaceful solution of this issue. That means I realized that our national security was in jeopardy, was in, I mean, we are in a great crisis, and our national security is also in trouble. So with this in my mind, I could not delegate this my duty to because the president had given me duty to anybody subordinate to me, and therefore I handled it myself for the next 5 days, not knowing that I would be the victim, the greatest victim of this whole incident. I will have to suffer for it at later days for many, many years. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Question?
Thank you very much. Basically, your experience, it has been a wonderful experience indeed, and I think the viewers will enjoy it like anything. Well, General Harun-Ar-Rashid, in a country like Bangladesh, it's very difficult to work under two governments, and you are the only chief of staff who was appointed during the time of Hasina government,
Awami League
government. Then
caretaker.
you continued during the Khaleda Zia government. As a chief of staff, what was your experiences in a country like Bangladesh?
It's an extremely tricky question to answer. It's an extremely tricky question to answer. Well, first of all, the appointment of the chief, whether it is Army, Navy or Air Force, primary concern is loyalty to the government. Then comes the efficiency. You must have seen a lot of time, the most efficient person is not appointed as the chief. Very unfortunate. Sometimes the loyalty to the government takes over. So when Awami League appointed me as the chief of army staff, I'm sure they thought of my loyalty to the government, to the country and to the people. After the election result, when the Awami League government could not qualify and the Bangladesh National Party qualified, new government came in, and new government had their own policy and what should I say, the plan to work. I must mention here in this particular issue, at that time, somehow there was a tradition. It started from 1975 that people who are in a position appointed by one government, when the next government comes, you have to say goodbye. Whether your tenure is still left or finished or new or old, irrespective. So that continued, I would say, even today. As far as I am concerned, as I crossed over from one government to another, from the Awami League government to the caretaker government, from the caretaker government to the BNP government, my aim and objectives were fixed. I did not change my aim nor the objective. My aim was to keep the army as a professional as much as I can. I would strongly recommend that if there is any allegation against any person, that must be highlighted, investigated, and after the investigation, well, government is at large to take administrative action or legal action. But without giving any rhyme or reason, one blue evening at 15 minutes time says, well, General, thank you very much. Because there is one sentence written in the then Royal Military structure is you serve at the pleasure of the Crown. and we have converted it. We serve at the pleasure of the President, and the President can withdraw the pleasure at any time, and he is not bound to give a reason or explanation. Think about it. After putting on 32 years of service, achieving that high standard, and if you are marched off in the half of your tenure, how would you feel? How would your family feel? How would your subordinates feel? I would say the whole organization becomes shaky. That produces a bad result. And what is that bad result? Now they know that until and unless you switch your allegiance from there to here, you will not survive. So now there is a competition with whom my loyalty should be. And this is extremely, I said 3 times, a bad situation for any defense forces, because in the defense forces everything should depend on chain of command. Nothing left, nothing right, nothing above, nothing down, chain of command, one and for all. But unfortunately that doesn't happen. So to answer to your question is, we must get back to the practice of selecting honest, dedicated, capable, then of course loyal person to the Constitution and to the people of the country. If there is any allegation, well,
thank you very much, General. Thank you very much. We'll go for a short break again. Viewers, we are going for a short break. Please keep watching. Viewers, welcome to the talk show Promising Bangladesh, sponsored by Crown Cement. We are having talks with 2 brilliant chief of staffs of defense forces. One is from Air Force and other is for Army. And now we turn to Air Vice Marshal A.G. Mahmud. You are known as a troubleshooter, and during a long span of time, you were once upon a time were with Hussein Mohammad Ershad as Minister for Food Relief and Health. And during that time, there was a serious crisis, possibility of serious crisis, food crisis. But you handled it like anything. That's why you're known as a troubleshooter. Please tell us the story. How did you call it?
Before I respond to your question, can I intervene?
Yes, please, go on.
He has brought out a very important point of national security, means the tenure, the security of the Army Chief of Staff in his chair, which is connected with the national security. I am afraid this practice is definitely not correct. I happen to have retired premature voluntarily, but he retired premature involuntarily. But both of us retired. Circumstances were such that I retired, and circumstances were such that he also retired, and he did not feel that upset. He understood. It is very important to understand that when you reach the state of eligible to become Chief of Staff, there is no question about his strength, weakness, his ideas, or anything about it. The man is absolutely crystal clear in front of the government. A continuity of that post is so important that I cannot really explain in this short time. But I must say this practice, it has happened in our country, not he and me only, but others also had retired premature for similar reasons. I had, of course, had my own reason, which I don't want to say, or if you want I can say, but I don't want to say now. I'll answer your question, but I also must say and share the views of General Harun-Ar-Rashid that it should never happen, never again. Thank you. Now, the question is about that famine condition prevailing that was predicted in 1982, March. General Ershad was at that time Chief of Army Staff, and he called me. I had retired at that time, It was December 1977 that I retired, and then I stayed on in the government for another 6 months because I was requested to, against my wishes though, and I was trying to find out something to feel of the ground. At that time I got the call, and he told me that there is a serious food crisis looming over Bangladesh, and some people have started dying, and he wanted me to help the government. He was going to take over. So my first reaction was that this would be premature. If you take over now from a civilian elected government, it will be premature. So he says, if people start dying, we'll be able to stop them from dying, because by that time the famine would be full blown. So he had a point. So I kept quiet, but I still said, maybe you think that don't act prematurely. Act only when you think you have to. With this we parted, and shortly after 2-3 days he calls me up again and he says that I have taken over and you come and join. My family had some bad experience with the government and appointees. As I told you, I was a victim of the previous government. So they had nothing, they had mentally was absolutely nothing to do with the government and services. Anyway, I told my wife about this conversation, and she said one thing. She was a very pious lady. She says, Hazrat Yusuf al-Islam was made the food minister of Egypt when there was a crisis. So on that ground, if I am required to go and serve, I may offer myself. So I said, okay, it looks very convincing. So I told General Rashad that, okay, I'll join. And then I also told him one thing. I said, I'll take over, take this job, but no political interference. If anybody politically interferes me, I'll leave that job. So on that condition he said, and believe me or not, throughout my stay for next up to 85, 3 years, he never asked me a question. He never said a word about my activity, never. There have been a lot of other confrontations and other things, but so where he is concerned, he is absolutely quiet. Anyway.
You shorten it, please. 1 minute.
Huh?
1 minute.
1 minute. I have got 1 minute. Oh. When I took over, I found that in a capacity of 20 lakh tons of food grain godowns, there was 2.5 lakh tons of food grain only. So with the projection, with the prediction or forecast, but not prediction, forecast of 10 lakh people to die, and that was done by Oxfam, I started to face the problem with only 2.5 lakh tons of food grain in the godown, which is also sweeping stock. I imported 36 lakh tons of food grain over a period of time, got food aid from Japan, from India, from USA, from Saudi Arabia, and yes, and also got food grain from Burma, from Thailand, so all over, wherever it's available. And then Allah is great. He is very kind to me. Not a single man died during my tenure.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
With 13 lakh tons of food grain to go down, and I left the government.
Thank you very much. Well, General Harun, having arrived at the age of 52, just proceed. You are a valiant freedom fighter, and we understand your mental land discovery phenomena. What is your understanding about the whole thing in Bangladesh at this very moment?
There was a time when a big man like Dr. Henry Kissinger termed Bangladesh to be a bottomless basket, that it will never survive. I'm living aside the Pakistanis who said Bangladesh is only few months, then it will collapse. Today, we are completing 52 years and tomorrow we'll start 53 years. We not only survived, we thrived. Today, in the world, Bangladesh is recognized as a force to reckon with. Number two, a sort of model to be followed for developing. Number three, the recognition, acclamation received by the government and the head of the government is unprecedented. However, though our income has increased, our GDP has increased, our export has increased, our export diversification is taking place, yet we lack in something. Let us be very frank about it. Our inequality between the poor and rich are growing further and further. Poor are becoming poorer, rich are becoming richer. Number two, even after 52 years, we cannot really confirm to say that we are capable of delivering health services to each and every citizen of the country. Even after 52 years, we cannot say we can educate all our children. Even after 52 years of our existence, we cannot say every citizen has a shelter. So, as you said, as a member of the Bangladesh War of Liberation, Mukti Fauj, why did you fight? What was our objectives? What did we aim at? Was it only changing the capital from Islamabad to Dhaka, or is it changing a flag between Pakistanis to red and green flag? Well, those were part of it, but mainly it was the Bangabandhu 6-point declaration which said clearly economic emancipation of the people. I am saying after 52 years of our existence, our people have not achieved the economic emancipation. As I said, rich and poor gap is increasing. Our judicial system is not reachable to the poor, to the nook and corner of the public that are deprived of. Our health system, one of the most expensive, difficult to reach. I think even after progressing so much, recognized by the international community and world community, I think we still have a lot to do to look after the downtrodden people of the country for whom Bangabandhu fought for 23 years. We fought the war. 3 million people sacrificed their life. They all dreamt that we will have exploitation-free society where everybody will get equal opportunity to create his own job, to get his own feed. We have to create that one. I only can pray that the incoming election is free and fair and the people can choose their leaders who will guide them to the future destination. If we cannot choose the right leaders, then we will suffer. Even Almighty Allah has said, I give you that type of leader whom you deserve. So, if we don't deserve a good leader, we will suffer.
Thank you very much, General Harun. And we are about to end this talk show. And thank you very much, Air Vice Marshal Mahmud. Well, viewers, we are about to end this talk show, and before ending the talk show, I have to summarize what the two giant figures from the Defence Forces of Bangladesh spoke, expressed, and we understood. They have deep and profound feelings for Bangladesh, and they are patriots. And they can think of the nation, even reaching at this stage of life. General Harun spoke very eloquently, freely about his experience during the time of liberation, even his experience during the tenure of as Chief of Army Staff. At the same time, A.C. Mahmud explained his glorious chapter of his life, these two events. One is hijacking of Japanese flight 472 and the performance he showed in favor of the nation, highlighting, enhancing the prestige of Bangladesh. Definitely, he is a pride for the nation. And even during the time of Hussein Mohammad Shah, there was a big crisis of food crisis. He handled and tackled it. And because of his honesty and dedications, he is what he is. At the same time, General Harun, a part of the history of Bangladesh. He is not a freedom fighter. He was the Chief of Army Staff of Bangladesh, Army. And his sacrifices can never be let down, undermined. We are proud, both of them. And thank you very much, viewers. Thank you very much. We'll meet you again. Thank you.